All right. Yeah, thanks to the first two presenters, because essentially you keep my money safe, because all my money is in cryptocurrency. As Adam mentioned, yeah, I don't have very much Canadian dollars. You'll find out that I do keep a small float on a month-to-month basis to pay my expenses, but I did go full crypto. I'm trying out the full scope of cryptocurrency products and services that the world has to offer to see if this A can be done and to see if B we can beat inflation and live a fruitful life without too much stresses of having to figure out how to live with your money entirely in cryptocurrency. So my crypto journey consists of something like 8 or 9 years now, depending on where you want to call the start date. Sometimes I say it's 2015 when I first bought Bitcoin. Sometimes it's when I started mining Dogecoin in 2013 with some friends in college. Uh, Regardless of where my journey started, I did work for a blockchain company as a software engineer. That's how I'm technically trained as a full stack developer. So that's both the front end and the back end. Now, after the 2017 boom, I paid off my student loans with the profits from the 2017 bull run, whatever you want to call it, bubble. And that put me in a really good position to start my own company called the Atlantic Blockchain Company with my now wife Murgachi Pawe. And we started the Atlantic Blockchain Company as a bit of it like an advocacy education company. To be honest, we really didn't know what we wanted to do or to how to build the business without funding. We knew that we didn't really want to take funding and build a product right away. We didn't know what we wanted to build, and so we just traveled around and gave lots of presentations. But that business model was obviously disrupted uh, during COVID. So we started to go full crypto in July of 2020 for some reasons that I'm going to disclose later. But what Go Full Crypto looks like to us is having all of our money in cryptocurrency with the biggest allocation given to Bitcoin. So 90% Bitcoin, 10% altcoins. The decision didn't just come from it wasn't just made on a personal level. It was also made on a company level. So we took whatever money that we had made in the first 2.5 years of our business for Atlantic Blockchain Company, and we saw some objective benefits to moving our company onto a Bitcoin standard as well. So yeah, again, we're gonna dig into what those benefits that we reaped were later in the presentation, but in August of 2020, we converted 100% of our cash reserves into Bitcoin as well. Needless to say, that the timing was good. We didn't necessarily know whether or not the timing was going to be good when we did it, but it did work out, and is still working out despite the 50% correction that we're on right now. So why did we go full crypto? So we can break it down to three reasons. We were headed there anyway. That was the trajectory that I had been on since more or less 2013. I really resonated with the philosophy of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin specifically. And I bought my first bit of Bitcoin in 2015, but just progressively used it as a tool to grow my wealth, pay down debt quickly, and yeah, this is where I wanted to end up in my life. Regardless, it's just that I don't really resonate with the way that our government or fiat currencies are being run by our central banks, and so I want currency adherent to a body of beliefs and philosophies that I can agree with and get on board with. Uh, we wanted to beat inflation, so there are official inflation numbers are something like 7%, but I think that within our lifetime we'll see something more akin to what a country like Turkey just went through. Maybe not as extreme as Argentina or Venezuela, but I think 7% is a little modest if you ask me. So the third reason is that we just weren't satisfied with the services that we were getting within the traditional financial sector. As entrepreneurs, as I learned so many of you are, I'm sure that you've had the issue of being a new business owner, going to the bank and saying, hey, can I get some debt? And they ask you for 2 years of income statements, and lo and behold, you don't have them because you haven't been in business for 2 years. So you got to wait to get that house, despite having more than enough money to pay for a good chunk of the down payment. You have to wait because your business hasn't been open for 2 years. And it's like, well, that's not going to fly for me, especially with Canada-wide, the housing market exploding the way it is. We weren't able to get a house and capitalize on that opportunity because the bank wouldn't give us a mortgage. So can we get the same kind of financial services within the crypto realm without ever touching the traditional finance realm? And yeah, let's figure out let's find out what I figured out here. Okay, so July 2020, the backdrop is the solution to the 2008 financial crisis was for the central banks to print more money, quantitative easing, stimulate the economy. Same thing with the March 2020 COVID crisis. So July 2020 comes around and houses are skyrocketing, and we're getting biased access to financial services. Like a small aside here, when we went into a number of banks in Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is where our headquarters is, to get a bank account for the Atlantic Blockchain Company, it was like 3 days after Quadriga. So granted, they're a little sensitive to the topic of blockchain and cryptocurrency, but as soon as the word blockchain came out of our mouth, they're like, no, like, we're not going to give you a bank account. So that was a problem. We couldn't get a bank account for 4 or 5 months after that, which was an admittedly slow start to our business. So people are very apprehensive, or were at least, to the whole topic of cryptocurrency, and we wanted more unbiased access to financial services that we thought that we should have anyway. So the questions that we had, given the backdrop, is, okay, how do we spend cryptocurrency? If we actually want to go full crypto, how do we do it? How are we actually going to buy our groceries, pay bills, and still enjoy our lives by seeing movies and going and eating out at restaurants? How do we manage the volatility of markets? Is that going to be an issue with 100% of our money in these assets that could fluctuate on a 50% basis over the course of 3 months? Can we actually beat inflation personally and as a business? Can we get access to debt instantly at a good rate without paperwork? That's the ideal. Can it actually work out? And then how do we minimize risk all the while doing this and solving these problems? So going full crypto, I just want you to keep in mind these questions, because I'm going to chunk them up into these 3 categories. Like, there's 3 answers to these questions that we asked ourselves. So let's dig in. For spending, we keep a low monthly CAD balance, so Canadian dollar cash balance, for direct debit-based expenses. Ultimately, the only expense that chalks up to is rent. We don't really have any other Canadian dollar expenses. Everything else can be handled by our crypto Visa debit card. So ShakePay offers one, and then Crypto.com also offers one, and they allow us to pay any Canadian merchant just like we would that accepts a credit card, just like any regular credit card. We load that crypto Visa debit card with Canadian dollars, or we can sell cryptocurrency on the apps and immediately swipe the card 30 seconds later at the grocery store or wherever we need to be spending the money. Excuse me. So that works. Spending was solved by these Visa cards. If that was not in place, then we probably wouldn't have as easy of a time going full crypto, so to speak. The second aspect is volatility. And we thought this was actually a huge issue for us, and we thought long and hard about it, and ultimately we decided that this was dependent on our time horizon. So the longer our time horizon, the less it mattered about volatility. If we had a monthly cash flow of Canadian dollars to cover our month-to-month expenses, and if we have passive income set up within the cryptocurrency realm, that no matter how much it falls by, we have enough passive income that sort of sustains our minimally viable lifestyle, let's put it, then we actually don't really care about the volatility. It's sort of a byproduct of the industry, but not a problem explicitly, unless you're trying to trade the market and you're panic selling and panic buying and all that stuff, which we aren't. We're taking whatever Canadian dollars we have at the end of the month, and we're dollar cost averaging in the next month, straight into Bitcoin for the most part. So volatility, not a problem. Our time horizon is forever, so we're not parting with our Bitcoin. It's a lifetime hold. We're gonna give it to our children to have in their lives, and have them run their lives on a crypto lifestyle. At least that's the plan. So volatility, again, it can also be profit providing, right? Given the right kind of trading algorithms or the right demeanor. If you know how to trade the volatility, you can actually use it to your advantage, which we occasionally do. So the answer to the third group of questions was, how do we beat inflation? Can we beat inflation? How do we gain access to debt? And how do we minimize risk? And so we actually found that Bitcoin does all of those three things for us the best, just the one asset. And so just at a philosophical level, both Murgachi and I value simplicity. We're business owners. We're trying to build a business. And so we don't really want to spend all our time researching all the latest and greatest cryptocurrencies out there. I love cryptocurrencies. I want more of them out there because I think that they bring an interesting set of perspectives and affronts to Bitcoin's claim to fame. I want Bitcoin to run up against them and demonstrate why it can hold its own, as with like a single use case, and that use case being money, very, very hard money. So yeah, we found out that Bitcoin can beat inflation. It does give us access to debt, and it does minimize the risk. So I'm going to tackle each one of those individually here. We needed to find a cryptocurrency that conservatively rises more than 25% year over year. So with CPI officially at 7%, we're also looking at the price, like the rise in host prices, the rise in tuition, the rise in insurance, the rise of assets. So things that are not necessarily included or explicitly included in the CPI calculation. We want to beat those. We want to beat those that percentage as well. We want something that rises at least 25% year over year, and Bitcoin has historically done that. So Bitcoin does this, and we expect it to continue because if you're new to Bitcoin, it has a limited supply of 21 million coins. It has an ever decreasing inflation rate. The inflation rate's now below 2%, never to go back above 2%. So in essence, new supply coming into Bitcoin is down. The new users are coming in Bitcoin on a daily basis. So in the increasing rate of adoption, new demand up, supply down, demand up. That's a recipe for creating more price action. Let's put it. I would just say that it's actually a recipe for volatility, not necessarily upward volatility or downward volatility, but volatility. Like if you squeeze the supply, it makes it easier for the price to move around. Usually, supply down, demand up means the price goes up. Doesn't necessarily turn out that way because all the metrics in the last 6 months have been pointing to Bitcoin continuing its bullish trend above 69,000. But as you can see in the last 3 months, it hasn't exactly done that. And I hope that one of you asked me, like, hey, does this mean that your net worth just decreased by 50% in the last 3 months? It's like, yeah, that's what that means. And it's like, well, that's not the first time this has happened to me. As the previous presenter has mentioned at the start of his presentation, losses are incurred by having a crypto lifestyle. And when you've taken a half a dozen punches to the face, let's put it, with respect to the kind of losses that we see in the crypto realm, you just kind of learn to take them. And again, it's volatility that we are anticipated from the beginning, and we're not too concerned about because we're forever hodlers. So this aspect is one of the pieces that ends up surprising a lot of people. You can actually get access to debt using Bitcoin through over collateralized loans. So with a normal loan, you need a credit score, and you're essentially securing it with proof of your income, and sometimes with a record of your assets, or a lien on your house, or hey, I have this car, hey, I have this land, you can come take it if I don't pay my that line of credit back, or that mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. But with cryptocurrency, how do you give loans for something that's intangible, that is also difficult to seize, or impossible to seize in some cases? With over collateralized loans, the scenario is that you lock $100,000 worth of Bitcoin in a smart contract, or with a company or something like that. Then you can get up to $50,000 worth of USD cash right there on the spot, and then you can pay back that loan at your leisure. So I've done this quite a few times, just to kind of prove the concept, like taken a loan, done something with the money, flipped it, whatever. Sometimes I lost money, sometimes I make money. But just reiterating that it's possible to take a loan, then you can pay it back. In every single case, I've filled out no paperwork, signed no piece of paper, had to answer no questions, and I've never had my credit score asked for. The payment has been reflexible, and I've paid as much as 8% for the US dollars, and I've paid as little as 1% for the US dollars, which, all things considered, I'm happy with anything in between that rate. Especially if it means that I can get the money instantly and use it in whatever way I deem fit. So I can actually tell you in one of the ways that I've used it in this next slide here. So in order to reconcile this aspect of going full crypto, minimizing risk, we know that if we're doing something as risky as converting all of our money into cryptocurrency, we might as well choose the least risky option that maximizes our returns. So just reiterating that last part, the least risky option that maximizes our returns. That's basically the justification for having 90% of our holdings in Bitcoin. We think it gives us the largest chance of fulfilling that criteria. Least risky option, maximizing our returns. We think Bitcoin has the least chance of being shut down in the future. We think it has the greatest chance of maximizing our returns, even if at this point those returns are modest, but I don't think that they are. So 90% of our holdings are in Bitcoin. And then 10%, I know this says 90% plus and 10% plus. It's because things fluctuate, right? So 90% in Bitcoin, 10% in that picture on the far left is just land. And so remember when I said that you can get debt using Bitcoin? That's what we used to buy the land. Because again, banks don't want to deal with us. We walk in. We keep our salaries intentionally low with our company because well, I mean, we pay less taxes that way. We get to keep more of our money. But then the downside is the bank doesn't exactly want to loan us all that much money, because on paper we look rather poor. So yeah, we walk into the bank and they don't want to give us money. How do we get enough money in one place to go and get that land without triggering a capital gains tax, a massive capital gains tax, or just, I mean, a taxable occurrence in general? We want to avoid that. We don't want to sell our Bitcoin. We want to hold it long into the future. So with the land, we collateralized some Bitcoin, took out a loan, bought the land. The number of holdings are there for, like, they're as bets, right? They're high risk investments, or they're utilitarian investments. So in the example of the second one from the left there, that's the crypto.com coin, right? And that gives me access to this crypto.com card, which facilitates us going full crypto by allowing us to spend or easily sell cryptocurrency that we can then spend as Canadian dollars. So that's kind of how the rest of our holdings, that's the purpose of the rest of our holdings. They're either high risk bets or utilitarian, or hedges against the whole cryptocurrency space. That's what the land is serving for us. So again, that's our holdings. And then like a further breakdown of that, like about 60% of everything is just in cold storage. We just not touching it at all. 20% we have in passive income streams, kind of supplementing the salaries that we don't take from our company, because we just reinvest everything back into the company. 18% for trading, 2% for high risk investments and experimentation, so that we can keep on top of the industry and be experts in our field. We need to play around with the tools that we talk about. We need to walk the walk if we're going to talk the talk. So as an individual and a couple, the strategy has allowed us to get access to debt without going through a bank, which has been just basically life-changing. That's one of the that's one of the core reasons why you want a bank, so that you can go to get a mortgage. You're like constantly trying to please the bank, so that you can have a good credit rating, keep your credit rating high, and get a good rate. It's like, no. I don't need to do any of that. I can just omit all of that from my life for now on. So the other thing is we can beat inflation, at least in the last 12 months. I'm anticipating this will continue, but happy to put my money where my mouth is if the market completely turns sideways for the next however many years. We can keep more of our money in assets that grow instead of fiat that doesn't. And this gives us an experiential, this whole thing of going full crypto gives us an experiential advantage over our competitors, as we do provide some individual consultations as well as business consultations. So as a business owner, which is, I understand a lot of you are businesses, and this strategy of going full crypto or adopting a Bitcoin standard, this is not, we're not the first to the scene for, here. Like there's other companies that did this before us. Maybe the most notable in Canada is Tahini's restaurant, and then maybe the most notable internationally is MicroStrategy with Michael Saylor, Giga Chad at the top there. He's quite the character. But so as a business, it allowed us to actually extend our runway by quite a bit. And again, this was partially because of the timing of when we did it. We did just buy Bitcoin and convert all of our cash reserves at an optimal time. It allowed us to both extend the runway and refrain from taking external funding, which we never wanted to do. We wanted to remain 100% shareholders of all the shares of our company, so that we can be the ultimate directors of the direction of the company. We don't want other investors having external influence and telling us that we need to do things that we don't want to do, or buy things that we don't want to buy, hire people we don't want to hire. That's not why we started the company in the first place. We started the company to be in charge of our time more than anything else. We wanted financial freedom, but that also means freedom to choose what we do with our time. And for us, external funding, that's not always the case, of course, but for us, external funding meant that we needed to give up a little bit of how we dictate or choose to use our time. It's allowed us to refine our expertise in our domain. That's kind of niche down. We are the people that do walk the walk. We prove it. Frictionlessly pay contractors abroad. This is huge. We save quite a bit of money. It's difficult to estimate exactly how much money we save, but just through a simple buying low, selling high strategy, or I mean, yeah, I know it's a simple strategy. It's more difficult to implement that in practice, but we end up paying our contractors less and less over time in Bitcoin terms, right? When denominated their paychecks in Bitcoin, which we do denominate their paychecks in Bitcoin, we pay them less and less money over time. They get their money sooner, and they pay no money to receive it, which is really great for them. And then they have ultimate autonomy to use that Bitcoin however they choose. Then I suppose I'm at the end. So I love questions, and this kind of talk usually gives rise to all sorts of questions on how we actually how some of the nuances work out. So I haven't been checking the chat, but I hope that you have some questions for me regarding what I've discussed here today.
The first question we have is from Mod Hassan. He says, what passive income in the crypto space do you participate in? And obviously, if there's some, personal confidential question that you don't want to answer, that's cool. You can just say, not answering that one, but I'll leave that to you and your discretion on how much you want to share. So just to recap, the question from Mod was, what passive income in the crypto space do you participate in?
Yeah, actually, so my Substack is full of all of my personal details. Actually, so if you want all of the information on what passive income streams I'm investing in, how I'm investing in them, why I'm investing in those ones over other ones, I detail that all within the Substack. But just to name a couple, I am a pretty big fan of the Crypto.com ecosystem. They've provided me with a lot of utility in going full crypto. So I use both the passive income streams that they give me within their centralized service, so their app, and then they've also launched a decentralized financial ecosystem on their own independent decentralized blockchain, decentralized in quotations, and that. Yeah, there's lots of passive income streams there. So it's just a matter of putting all that together and figuring out what's best for you, which like you got to manage your risk, right? You also need to be quite well educated. So if you're participating in DeFi, there's this thing called impermanent loss. So it's passive income, but there's also the chance of you losing money kind of unknowingly in the background, and you want to watch out for that. For beginners, I definitely recommend checking out some of these centralized financial providers' passive income streams, so something like Binance or BlockFi or Crypto.com.
Nice one. Yeah, thanks for that. We got a question here from Michael Modun. Nice to see you again there, Mike. Michael has asked, do you see many businesses outside of finance using crypto?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think I see this all as bottom up, right? To some extent, like we've seen quite a bit of top down in the last year for Bitcoin, but in general, like the whole financial revolution, like if it's not bottom up, I don't necessarily think it'll work. So I think like restaurants, for example, are going to be huge to adopt crypto once they have a critical mass of customers come in. So restaurants, retail, like brick and mortar stores, especially since they've been so deprived in the last year, and a lot of them are closing down. Any way they can differentiate themselves from these like big, bulky, like Walmarts, right? These huge outlet stores that might take a little bit longer to navigate through the compliance of accepting crypto. These brick and mortar stores can download a wallet in 5 minutes and start accepting crypto tomorrow or today, like literally 5 or 10 minutes later, right? That's a differentiating factor. So once there's the critical mass of these users, these people that walk into the store and say, hey, do you take Bitcoin? Do you take Ethereum? Do you take USDT? Do you take whatever? You want to take this cryptocurrency? As soon as that store owner has that ability to say yes, and then also that ability to then take that Dogecoin and turn it into Bitcoin or turn it into Canadian dollars, turn it into whatever they like as money, that's kind of where I see that future heading.
Awesome. Yeah, great insight there, and good question, Mike. We got a question from Mod again. Mod has asked, can you share some strategies you follow to store your excess Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I use a variety of strategies. I don't recommend having a honey pot. I don't recommend keeping all your eggs in one basket, despite my portfolio allocation. I like having all my eggs in Bitcoin. It's just I distribute my eggs. So I like multi-sig is something that you might want to familiarize yourself with if you're holding something like more than $5,000. That's just an arbitrary number. Whatever a large amount of money is to you, or a sufficiently large amount of money, consider an advanced storage schema. Basically, like you have more than one key, where more than one of these keys is necessary or required to unlock this one address that has your Bitcoin. So I can take those keys, I can geographically distribute them and encrypt them, and then makes the one address that actually contains the Bitcoin that much more secure. That's one way to do it. I do actually like using centralized financial providers with insurance and security audits like Crypto.com. So I am comfortable storing my money with them, as even though they got hacked recently, they were totally transparent about it. They restored the users' funds. They have an $800 million insurance fund just exactly for this. That's the kind of company I want to be keeping my money with. Not all of my money is there, obviously, because why would it be? That would be silly. So I use a range of cold storage options, and which consist of multi-sig hardware wallets, keys kept with various people, trusted individuals, lawyers, et cetera, and then the rest is distributed in some hot wallets. Let's say that I use all sorts of common security practices to secure.
Way to go. Well, look, I think I think that's the last question we had for you there, Keegan. Man, I just want to say thank you so much. I know it's crazy early hours of the morning for you. I said when you're back in Canada.
I woke up at 4 to do this.
Yeah, man, I really, really, really appreciate that. I can't express it any more than that. Yeah, man, look, when you're in Toronto, if you're ever this way, like I said, man, we'll take you out for some beers. We'll talk all the crypto stuff. I'm a noob, I guess you could say. I love the space.
We all are.
But I would just I would listen to the advice of smarter men like yourself who are really, really in this and say, hey man, look, I want to get into this. What should I do? So yeah, definitely excited for beers at some stage in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, hand clap emojis. Let's see some diamond hands. Let's see some hand claps to show your appreciation for Keegan and his crazy early morning getting up in India at 4 o'clock to share some knowledge with you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. I also posted the podcast there because Adam said listening is a good way to consume material as well. So we've got a podcast. Check it out. Thanks for your time.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much. Take care. We'll see you around. Thanks so much.